Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah. You will have noticed that yesterday we did our first sajdah tilawa, which is at the end of Surah Al-A'raf. There is the first sajdah, and many a sajdah as follows. You've got sajdah, most of the subsequent parts of the Quran has sajdas in them. So you've got 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and on in 18, 19, and all the way to the end. The ones that commonly known are the ones in Surah Inshiqaq and Surah you've got in Al-Alaq. Yes, I was going to say Surah Qadr, but that's not the one. So you've got those two are commonly known. So what is the hukum and the ruling of sajdah tilawa? If we recite sajdah tilawa, then we are required to do that sajdah, whether we do it immediately or afterwards. That becomes upon us to do that sajdah. If we recite it, or if we hear it. If we listen to the recitation of a verse of a sajdah which contains a sajdah tilawa in it, and that entire verse is recited, then that becomes wajib upon us to then do that sajdah, whether immediately or at some point later. But that becomes upon us, it's binding upon us until we've done that. And it's really, really important that we realize that there's always a mark there on all the mushafs on the side. It will say as sajdah. That should be an indication to us that this is the place where we would do sajdah. It should not be omitted, it should not be left out. This is part of the adab of the Quran, and this is being imposed upon us for those people who recite the Quran to, after having recited that, to do sajdah to tilawah. Now, if a person recites the same verse multiple times in one sitting, then they can do that one sajdah. They don't have to do multiple. They don't have to recall how many times have I recited this one verse. Just doing it once is sufficient. But if in one sitting you've done several different verses of the sajdah to tilawa, which contains a sajdah in them, then you would do one for each, even though you have recited them multiple times. That's often for people who are memorizing the Quran, they will repeat it several times. Would they have to do it several times? No, once is sufficient. And again, if we're hearing it, we should also do sajdah. Should we do sajdah if we're hearing it on the tape? There is a slight difference of opinion. It's probably better to do, but according to most, it's not necessary for you to do so. If you're hearing it on a recording, then it's not necessary to do so, but better still that if you have heard it, that you still do the sajdah to tilawah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, through His infinite grace and mercy, enable us to get through the remaining parts of the Holy Quran and give us the ability to be able to do sajdah. When we do sajdah, we do it with complete humility, because those verses, if we look at the meanings of those verses, it's about people who refuse to prostrate before Allah, and you as a reciter and the believer should immediately do what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking for others that would not do, but you as a believer, you would immediately prostrate with humility, and there should be an element of fear when you're prostrating before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, acknowledging that you are the servant of Allah, and if Allah asks you to prostrate, you are ever ready to prostrate before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without any hesitation, without any pride in the heart. We do it to Allah and only to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Hence, it is not permissible to do sajdah for anyone in the dunya. No makhluk, no creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can be prostrated to. Only the Creator can be prostrated to, and that's what we do. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us that understanding.